Hello everyone! It is Leafy! This is probably the first time you're hearing my voice on YouTube, which is pretty crazy. Anyhow, welcome to the video. We are going to be talking about Moonpaw, as well as Nightheart and Sunbeam, and what their kits might look like. Hello! Leafy here, cutting into my own video. Excuse my voice, I'm actually getting over a cold while I'm recording this part, but I just wanted to say that I made this before the newest book of the newest arc came out, which is Changing Skies, The Elder's Quest. So I have no idea what happens in that book, so I can't really discuss Moonpaw's character in that book. Also, while I was editing, I realized I didn't really explain the video very well. I think I did in an initial recording, and then I accidentally cut it out. But basically, what this video is that before we had Moonpaw's design, I wanted to design what I thought she would look like. And because we didn't have any info on her yet, I thought she was going to be one of Sunbeam and Nightheart's kits. And so for some of these drawings, well, most of them, I designed them as if they are Sunbeam and Nightheart's kits. So yeah, I hope you enjoy the video, and I hope you enjoy my many Moonpaw designs. At the end of the video, I will show, there's just me, there's nobody, I don't know why I said we, but I will show you Moonpaw's actual design and my art style. So yeah, enjoy! I will give a spoiler warning that if you don't want to hear about the newest arc or the newest book in the arc, I would stay away. If you don't want to hear anything about Moonpaw yet, I would stay away. This is your warning, because I am going to be talking about some of those things in the video as you watch me draw my many Moonpaws that I created. So I first tried to create this video as me drawing what I think Moonpaw would look like, and the cat that I'm drawing now really most represents that. Because when I thought of Moonpaw, I thought of a fluffy, anxious, silver and white cat. I know it's a little, cliche to do, white and silver for the moon, but it's Moonpaw. And that's just what the moon makes me think of. It makes me think of silver and white. And I love her. I love this one. I think she's really cute. I think she's really classic. I think she looks cool. I made her look anxious because apparently there is a ghost that she is hearing. I'm interested to see how that will pan out, because we had a similar plot in The Broken Code where Shadowsight was hearing, spoilers for The Broken Code, where Shadowsight was hearing Ashfur talking to him. So kind of interested to see how that's going to pan out. I'm a little worried because we kind of just had a similar plot, but I do like Moonpaw so far. Hopefully I will come to love her as much as I loved Froston, who we will talk a little bit more about soon. But yeah, so I'm just adding some shading to the first Moonpaw. We are going to be using the same line art. So thankfully she is actually a fluffy cat, or I would have been screwed. But she is actually a fluffy cat, and we're gonna keep the, anxious look that I sort of gave her. And, to save time, I'm also gonna use the same shading and lighting, so this is the only time you're gonna see me actually drawing the shading and the lighting, because we're just gonna be using it for the different cats, because they're gonna have the same line art. I will make it different colors, some of them are gonna be warm shaded, some of them are gonna stay cool shaded, but that is the shading. I'm just gonna add the final details on her, my classic Moonpaw. Even though the other designs I did were much more complex, I still really like her. And here she is, the final classic silver and white Moonpaw. I especially really like the little gradient that I added to her tail and her paws. I think it really brings it together. When the video's over, definitely let me know which one was your favorite. For this next one, here's where I start to get a little bit genetically accurate. So I did just kind of off the top of my head, and like with what I know of cat genetics. I didn't look anything up for this part, but I did already know quite a bit about cat genetics. I just kind of thought, you know, would their child be a tabby? Would they be like black or orange? And then I realized that their child would have to be a black or brown cat, because Sunbeam is a brown tabby, Nightheart's black cat. But in the bottom corner you can see my design of Sunbeam, and I made her so orange just because I really like how it fits with her name, that I forgot that canonically she's a brown tabby. She's not orange. But yeah, so I just kind of factored that in and kind of did that off the top of my head. And one of the possibilities for them is to have a black and white cat. So this one is not a genetically accurate rendition of the genetics. And what that means is that I took inspiration from what kind of children I thought, you know, they could have, but the design itself is not, you know, it's not a black and white cat. I did a black and gray cat with some tabby stripes. And of course, for my cat nerds out there, you know that that's not really a thing with actual cats, but we're not going completely genetically accurate yet. We will, but I'm still having, I mean, I had fun with the genetically accurate ones too, but I'm kind of having a bit of fun, you know, adding some things that, you know, you wouldn't really see on a real cat. Like I'm adding some freckles. I really like the little freckles. And of course she has her little eye bags because she's stressed. I really like doing some kind of little touch where it kind of looks like eye makeup that the cats have. I always think that looks really cute. BF. And yes, then I was kind of experimenting with giving her this sort of a moon-like spot on her back and her head, you know, trying to bring in the moon aspect of this design. I ended up not liking the light gray spot on her back, but I gave her kind of like a little saddle marking, and I stuck with the white on her forehead. So while I finish up this design, let's talk a little bit about Frost Dawn, because she was my favorite cat out of a Starless clan. She carried the arc. Personally, I felt that Nightheart and Sunbeam kind of blended together at one point, and they weren't really doing their own distinct things enough to make going between their point of views really interesting. Though I don't dislike them. I did have my ups and downs with Nightheart, and I do love Sunbeam. We'll talk more about Nightheart later. But overall, definitely Frost Dawn carried it with her, you know, giving us a perspective in RiverClan of how her mother was lying to her, using her, about how her friend Splashtail turned out to be this evil, terrible guy who tried to kill her. That was all very dramatic and very interesting. I will say that when she went to the park cats and she met, I believe it was Bee who had that sort of vision about a cat walking on ice. I think it was him in the dream walking on ice, and I really thought he was going to be important later, but then he never showed up again, and I'm kind of sad about that. I feel like he might show up again in another arc or in another spin-off book, but I'm kind of tired of that. I feel like, hold on, here's the finished design. Look at her, she's beautiful. This is our second Moonpaw. But I feel like in Warrior Cats, they're doing a lot of this thing where they will have things happen in like the middle of the book that takes place in a different book. Like they'll make a super edition about it, and then the cats will talk about stuff that like happened in that book, or they like won't mention, like the cats in Star, they all went on some journey that they didn't even explain why they were going on that journey in the middle of Splashtail's reign. And it's like, oh, you have to read the other book to find out. And it's like, I get that things can happen in between books. It would make sense if there was like a time skip in the book and like stuff could have happened, but I don't know. I just feel like it makes the arcs messier. I feel like anything that's important to know about the characters we're reading about in this arc that pertains, you know, to how they're relevant to the arc should come full circle within that same arc. Like, I don't want... Like, I feel like B could have been a stronger character in this arc. But he's probably going to come back in some other arc or some other random book. And to read his introduction, you'll have to read a Starless clan. And I just don't really like how they do that. Like, I don't dislike super editions and that kind of thing, but I just feel like if you're going to have a character, you know, appear, I don't want to have to read about them in a different book. Like, if they're going to appear in a series, make them important in that series. Like, give them most of their arc, like, in that series. I don't know. That's hot take. Maybe that's just me. But anyways, it's perfectly fine if you don't agree with me. And maybe you like that, and that's okay. But here is another Moonpaw. And this one is a brown tabby. So this is where I got more genetically accurate. And I even have a reference picture of a real cat in the bottom corner for me to go off of. Let me get my notes. So this brown tabby cat, and I'll put the family tree that I made up on the screen, but I'm not gonna go through the whole thing. I didn't get like super serious about this, but just going based off of what I know and what the canon coat colors are for the ancestors of Nightheart and Sunbeam, because again, I thought Moonpaw was gonna be their kit. That's what I based it off of. I just kind of, you know, did their coat colors and, like, in my head just kind of did what I thought they would have to pass down to make Sunbeam and Nightheart, and nobody really had to change drastically. I think maybe I had to change one kind of more obscure character that didn't really matter. But yeah, so this one's a brown tabby. Definitely their child, genetically accurate-wise, would have to be either a black or brown cat, because, you know, if you didn't already know, the cat's, like, base coat color, it gets carried on the X chromosome, and, you know, males, they have XY, so they can only have one color most of the time, which is why we tend to see, you know, female... I did not like the spot that I was drawing on her face. But that's why we tend to see female tortoiseshells and calicos, because they are multicolored. It's not impossible for a cat that looks male to be that way, but he would have to have XXY chromosomes, and that is just a lot rarer. So based on what I did, you know, their child would have to be a brown or black cat, because it would have inherited the black base color. They can inherit black or orange. That can either be, you know, regular or diluted. You know, black diluted is gray. You know, brown diluted, I believe, would just be like light brown. Yeah, so we're doing a brown tabby. And as you can see, I tried to give her like a moon marking on her forehead. I kind of fix it later. And I try to give her like a little moon speckle on her muzzle. I also had wanted to make like moon-shaped stripes on her. Like kind of, you know, give them a curve to make them sort of resemble a moon. Oh my goodness, I'm pressing buttons on my computer. But, I don't think that quite came across in the design. I think it just looks like normal tabby stripes. I kind of play around with them a little bit later, but that was the idea for this design, was to give her a sort of, you know, moon-ish shaped marking. Like, you could still get away with this being a real cat, but it's still fun, you know, there's still flair. I really enjoyed the challenge of doing genetically accurate cats. I feel like sometimes when you give yourself limitations, it makes you even more creative. I had to think outside the box with how I could get a cat that's supposed to be, you know, realistic enough looking, but that it still is an interesting warrior cat's design, and that it still says Moonpaw. You know, even though it's not like white and gray, how do I make it say Moonpaw? And, you know, let me know in the comments, you know, do you think I was successful with that? Don't be mean, but do you feel like it came across in the design as like, this is a moon cat? And, you know, just in general, like, which one was your favorite and why? So as for the genetically accurate children that I made for Nightheart and Sunbeam, I did write down like all of the possibilities they could have, and this could be in any combination. I only did 3 of them. There could have been a lot more. They could have had a child with some white spotting, you know, like a little bit of white patches, not like a lot of white patches, or they could have had a child with no white patches. You know, this design here, she does have some white spotting. They could have had a child that was a mackerel tabby, being a carrier for the classic tabby, or they could have had a classic tabby child. They also could have had a cat without dilution, so a non-diluted cat that carries dilution, or they could have had a diluted child. They could have had any combination of tabby or non-tabby children, meaning that it could have been a dominant, like 2 dominants, 2 recessives, or dominant and recessive in terms of the tabby gene that they're passing down. So yeah, I'll get to the other 2 combinations that I picked shortly as I play around with the stripes. I really was not having it with these stripes, but I get there eventually. In the meantime, I will start talking a little bit about Nightheart and my my love-hate relationship with this fictional cat, because I just sort of felt like he was never anything like Firestar, and I felt like it was weird that they were like putting it on him that he was like Firestar, when that was never something that really... It came up maybe a little bit with Alderheart, where he was worried about living up to like expectations, but like to the degree that Nightheart was at least claiming to experience it. I mean, he did, because they did try to name him, you know, Flame when he's a black cat, and like name him after Firestar on top of that. That was very extreme. But just, I don't know, it just felt like a plot point that they kind of wanted to like force in there, because they needed something to go with. And yeah, but you know, I went along with it. I accepted it. I was like, okay, you know, he's being compared to Firestar. I can see that reasonably enough. That's fine. And then he meets Sunbeam, and I thought them like stealing chicken or whatever was really cute. But then he tried to join her clan, only because he wanted to leave ThunderClan. Like, it wasn't that he loved her at first, it was just that he wanted to leave his clan. And that pissed me off, because I loved Sunbeam, and I felt so bad for what she had to go through. And then, you know, he told her that he was going to join her clan in front of everyone, and don't do that, dude. And then after all that, he still purposefully failed the trial. And that, I was so mad at him for that. I had to put down the book. and look away. But really quickly, here's the finished brown tabby design. I think she looks really beautiful. Let me know what you think of her in the comments. But yeah, I was really mad at Nightheart when he did that. Here's another one of his hypothetical children that might appear in the next book. And as you can see, you know, I'm again using like real references of real cats. That was another thing I wanted to do for this challenge. This time I went with a black and white cat. But I wanted to still like make it interesting. And I kind of go through a few different ideas of, like, you'll see in a minute, of me like wanting to make the like entire face kind of like a moon. Here I'm just kind of deciding what kind of off-white color I kind of want to go with. And see, here I tried to make the face like a moon, but I didn't really like that. It didn't really look realistic, or, you know, it just wasn't vibing with me for whatever reason. I ended up changing it, and I went sort of for a sort of like half, not fully half white, but a sort of like half white look. And the funny thing is that this cat ended up being the closest to Moonpaw, because I did end up basing it on a chimera cat. I didn't want to just go the regular like half-faced cat, which is ironic because that's what Moonpaw ended up being. But I wanted to kind of play around with that concept of the chimera cat. That's when in the womb, two of the... I don't know if it happens when they're like... I think it happens when they're embryos. When two of the embryos fuse together and, you know, they create one cat. And that can create that sort of half-face look that Moonpaw does in fact have. You know, a lot of these cats can have different eye colors as well. But it's not always so clear. Like, chimera cats can be more subtle. See, here I'm still not doing that sort of half-white look. Here I'm just kind of going for a regular sort of like black cat face marking, and I won't like that either. But what I land on is eventually that sort of chimera look. And I think I'm about to get to that now. I did not script this very well. But after trying to record it a few times, I just said heck it, and we're gonna go for it. But yeah, as you can see in that picture, that like tuxedo cat had two different eye colors, and when it's a non-white cat that has two different eye colors, there's definitely a chance that that could be a chimera cat, so that was my inspiration. And now here I'm getting closer to doing like the half face thing, and I sort of figured that out. And I'm doing like the little nose speckles, like even the nose is half and half. But yeah, back to Nightheart. That made me upset when he did that. Like I don't hate him. I really liked reading about his journey with Frostpaw. I thought that was really fun, how they went to the park cats, and I really liked that. I wish we got to know the park cats a little bit more, because I really like them. I hope they come back. But anyhow, and I love Wafflepaw. He's so cute. I can't believe they officially named a cat Wafflepaw. I love him. Anyhow, I really feel like they should have, instead of having Nightheart and Sunbeam get together how they did, I would have liked it if they would have pushed the story. And then, you know, Berryheart, she went to Sunbeam when she was upset about Nightheart leaving. And I wish that it, you know, Sunbeam would have like leaned into her mother a bit more, and then maybe her mother would have like manipulated her a bit or something. And, you know, maybe she tried to get back at Nightheart or something, or she goes down kind of like a darker path. And, you know, maybe they don't get together, but they still end up having to work together for some reason. You know, or maybe they do, but I just would have liked it if that would have been pushed a little bit more. Because even, I think I heard that the writers, they were going to go with them breaking up, but then they decided to bring them together because they thought that would have been too sad. And I'm like, you can't kill Bristlefrost and make her fade away into nothingness and then tell me that a plot point is too sad. You can't do that. Okay, Warrior Cats is sad. But yeah, that's just my opinion. I would have liked that. I don't hate Nightheart and Sunbeam together, but I think they had a rocky start, and I would have liked it if Sunbeam had more of an individuality amongst the three point of view characters. But anyhow, that's another Moonpaw finished. My Chimera cat that ended up being the closest to the actual Moonpaw. I do like how that one came out. Here is our last Moonpaw. I decided to make her a sort of light, warm gray classic tabby. Whenever I see the classic tabby, that always makes me think of Cheese Sweet Home. It's a manga and anime that I grew up with about this cute little kitten who gets separated from her mom and finds a new home with these people, and it's really cute. But I always think of Chi when I think of classic tabbies. So for this design, the moon aspect is supposed to be that sort of circle that classic tabbies have on their hind leg. It sort of looks like an eclipsed moon. I realized I didn't really have a strong moon motif for the last cat, but that's okay. I think that one I was just more into making it look like a cool black and white cat. But I think it still fits with the name Moonpaw. It just wasn't as direct. But for this one, you know, I'm going for the sort of eclipsed moon vibe, but obviously it has to be subtle because these are realistic cats, and realistic cats don't look like an eclipsed moon. But yeah, overall, in terms of a Starless clan, you know, it's definitely not my favorite arc, but it's definitely not my least favorite arc, I will say that. I put it lower on my list only because I felt like the background characters kind of faded away and didn't really have their own strong stories, which was one of the reasons why I loved Warrior Cats so much in the first place. I feel like with the newer arcs, you know, more and more, the background characters are just dwindling away. And I mean, characters that we've known that have been point of view characters or main characters in different books, I don't count them because it's like we already know about them. I want to learn about someone new. I want, you know, like new background characters that are interesting and don't just have personalities that are, you know, friendly and aggressive. Like, nobody really stands out to me except like Bayshine, because he was friendly and nice, and I do like him. There's nothing wrong with that, but I feel like when those are the only background characters that you can talk about, I feel like that's a downgrade for Warriors personally, because, you know, the first... I mean, none of them are going to be as good as the first arc, not for me, not just because of nostalgia, but I just feel like it had so much going on and so many in-depth side characters. But yeah, just like in general, even compared to like not just the first arc, I felt like a lot of the background characters were just there. I also feel like they're afraid to kill off cats randomly. Like, cats, they were dying left and right from like sickness and whatever, and you know, it's to remind you that like they're living in the wild, and you know, they have like natural consequences that they have to deal with. They would run into like a random badger or fox or something, and you know, I miss that. I mean, we have so many background characters that are just there. We could just kill them off. We could just start killing them off. Like, I think that would be I don't want to say that would be fun, but you know, it would get rid of some of them and it would be interesting. Personally, I think Warrior Cats could do with a sort of reboot. like a time skip. I don't know if reboot's the right word. Like a time skip where we time travel so far into the future that I don't know anyone. You know, I don't know anybody's lineage. Yeah, I just want a time skip to where we don't know anyone and we're starting fresh. Because it would be fine to continue with the same family lines if I felt like the writing was good and strong. And of course there are some things I like, you know, or else I wouldn't still be reading these books all these years later. I loved Frost Dawn, and, you know, I did like it. But compared to other Warrior Cats arcs and just other books in general, I just feel like it could be stronger. And I feel like if we just got away from having to keep up Firestar's legacy, having to keep up Tiger Claw's legacy, you know, we just started fresh with a bunch of new characters that don't know about anything that happened before, I think that would be good. I think that would pave the way for a lot of new stories and give the writers an excuse to come up with background characters that are actually interesting and not just characters that we read about in a different book who are just kind of there. But yeah, that's my opinion. You know, I did enjoy A Starless Clan, but it was not in my top 3 arcs. Not my least favorite, but not in my top 3. That's where I put it. That's where it's staying. Unless they come out with a bunch more arcs, and then my opinion might change. But as of right now, it's I put it like second to last. And like, you know, that doesn't mean that I hate it. I didn't hate it, but just compared to the other ones, I just like them more. Anyhow, we are finishing up with my last Moonpaw. I am just giving her her final little tabby markings, trying to figure out what to do on her forehead. You know, I gave her like a little moon-ish marking on her forehead. And then I didn't like that. So I just went with the little M shape. Oh, and I forgot to mention, but for the genetics, I was not paying attention to like eye colors. I think what I did was I gave them like one of Sunheart or Nightbeam's eye colors. Yeah, I kind of drew this a few months ago. And I don't fully remember, but I'm pretty sure that was my thought process. Because eye color genetics are way more complicated, and I'm not doing that. Maybe someday I'll learn about that, and maybe that'll be a whole video. But not today. I'm giving her the little white around the eyes, because I like doing that. I like giving them a little eye makeup. I think it looks cute. And there is the final Moonpaw. We are also going to look at my rendition of what she actually looks like. Here she is. Based on the Warrior Cats website, you know, what they put out about her design. This is my rendition of it. She is fluffy. She is a chimera. So the one chimera cat that I did was close in that sense. I did not think they were going to go with a chimera cat. I love that they did that. I really do like her design. I think she's so cute. I like the little curly feathers. Wow. Not curl feather. Not curl feather being in my subconscious after reading the last book. I really like her little ear tufts. It does make me think of curl feather. That's what I was trying to say. So that's interesting. But oh, what if it's curl feather? What if it's curl feather who's talking to her? Interesting. I don't know. I don't know any details about like what ghost is talking to her. If they gave any new information on that, I don't know it. I just know that like a ghost talks to her. That would be interesting. Wow. But anyhow, yeah, here is the actual accurate Moonpaw. Let me know which of my Moonpaws was your favorite in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, feel free to subscribe, leave a like. That would really help me out because the algorithm doesn't really like me. But yeah, thanks for watching.